Hi, I'm Mike Appleby. I'm one of the IIIF specification editors, and in this video I will provide an overview of the IIIF Presentation API. This video will cover version 2.1 of the Presentation API. Version 3.0 has just been released. You can navigate to the IIIF.io website, click on the technical details section and choose the Presentation API version 3. At the top of the version 3 specification, there is a link to the previous version. If you click on that, you will find the 2.1.1 Presentation API specification. The first element of the Presentation API data model that we'll talk about is the manifest. You'll see that when you look at the overall data model for the Presentation 2 and Presentation 3 APIs, you'll see that there are some differences. But really, at the core, there are a few elements, and this graphic from the version 2 specification really sums it up. There's a manifest, and it contains a sequence or one or more sequences of canvases that have content, that usually images. But really, the manifest is the central organizing unit for IIIF. So the manifest is a JSON LD document, so it's encoded in JSON in a single file. And it contains metadata information about the images for the object, rights information, all the information needed to present that object in a viewer. And so to get a better handle on this, we're going to look at Mirador, a IIIF compatible pan-zoom viewer from Project Mirador. If you'd like to follow along, navigate to the projectmirador.org website and click on Try a Live Demo. The Mirador viewer will open, and I will close by clicking the X in the top right of each window the two demo objects that appear by default, and then click on Start Here. Now you'll see a list of objects that the demonstration Mirador instance is pre-populated with. Scrolling to the bottom, you'll find a manuscript from Durham University Library. Click on that and it will open. If you navigate forward, you'll see that by default, Mirador will show this in a 2-up view. It will show you the page openings, but you can change that to a single page view. This is controlled by metadata in the IIIF manifest. Now, opening the metadata display, you can see that there's metadata about the object. There's also a label, front paste down, which describes the object that's currently in view, or the canvas, actually, that's currently in view. And I can also click on this link to show the table of contents that's been provided in the manifest. And now by clicking on any of those headers, you can see that I'm navigating through the manifest. Each manifest contains at least one sequence, and the sequence defines a viewing order for the canvases and their content. In our case, it defines the page order for our manuscript. You can see the sequence by changing to the thumbnail list view in Mirador. Another option at the top right is to select the gallery view, which shows you all of the canvases in the sequence order for the manifest. Next, I want to show you the same IIIF manifest in a different viewer. This is the universal viewer, and I've opened the Durham manifest, and you can see that the same data elements are present in a different user interface. So at right, there is the metadata view. At left is the sequence of canvases. And as we click on the index, you can see the list of chapter headings, just as we had in Mirador. We can navigate forward and backward through the content, just as we did in Mirador, and of course pan zoom. Let's use this view to look at some features of the manifest. Highlighted in yellow is the label, which often contains the title of the object. At right, you see the metadata and description being displayed. There are separate resources for those within the manifest. The attribution must be displayed is often used as a way of giving credit to the provider of the manifest. A license block is available. You could provide, say, a Creative Commons license link. And finally, a logo to provide some visual branding that indicates the provider of the content. There are many other elements that we will cover in the online course. In the next section of this video, I'd like to take a look at the canvas. The canvas is the holder for image content and other types of annotations. Let's take a look at the universal viewer, and anywhere you see a yellow box being drawn here, the content is ultimately being derived from the canvas. So all of those page images on the left and the two main page images on the right. Now the canvas, remember, it is referenced by a sequence, so we have an ordering to navigate through them, and the canvas then has content associated with it. It can have content resources, so it could have one image, it could have 10 images, it could have other types of content annotated onto it. We'll mention a bit more about annotation later. A canvas has height and width properties that define an abstract coordinate space onto which content is annotated. In this case, a single image is annotated onto the canvas and fills it entirely. The aspect ratio of the canvas matches the aspect ratio of the image. In some cases, we may wish to associate an image with only part of the canvas. For instance, when we know that material is missing and has not yet been imaged. As you see in this example, the manuscript fragment is annotated onto the top part of the canvas, but the lower region is left blank. Here is an example where multiple images are annotated onto a single canvas. You can see that a base image is annotated on the entire canvas, and a detail image is annotated onto a region. If we look at this in a IIIF viewer, it's a useful illustration of how the pixel dimensions of the images are independent from the coordinate system of the canvas. And in fact, if we zoom in on this detail image that was overlaid, you can see that the surrounding image is lower resolution, so it is blurry, whereas the detail image is very high resolution, almost 5,000 pixels on the long edge, and so you get really fine detail at this high zoom level. I want to point out a few aspects of the JSON that represent a canvas and an image annotation. For the canvas, it will always have a fixed type of SC:canvas. It will have a unique identifier, a display label, and a width and height that define the aspect ratio and coordinate system that will be used to annotate content onto the canvas. And then it will have an array of image annotations. In that array will be the annotations that paint the images onto the canvas. The JSON of the annotation contains an ID and type. It also contains a motivation of painting. This motivation is defined in the Presentation API specification, and it indicates that the annotation is painting content onto a canvas. On references the unique ID of the canvas we saw previously, and resource references an image. You can see that the format here is defined as image JPEG, and it has a height and width in pixels. The key thing, though, is that it also has a service block, and in that block would be a reference to the IIIF Image API service for this image. When a viewer sees that service, it understands that it can then contact the IIIF Image API server and request the image at perhaps at different scales or tiles, whatever it needs to render the content for its particular use case.